So we are joined today for our very first episode of Real Interviews with Shawn Parise. Shawn has his own YouTube channel, Parise606, where he writes speeches. There's some amazing speeches. If you haven't got to check them out, definitely head over to youtube.com and look up Parise606. He has quite a few of them on there. All of them that I've heard so far are just amazing, to say the least. The guy speaks... when I say he speaks like a politician, that's not to say that he lies. That's to say he speaks like a politician if a politician were to speak the truth to you. So with that being said, Shawn, do you care to tell us a little bit about your history? Maybe what made you join the military, why you began writing speeches?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, man, I was born in Texas and raised in Kentucky and raised in a small town outside of Lexington. About 1,400 people, maybe. In the city, anyways. In the town, it's the city, but and it's a very, very small town. But yeah, I went to Back County High School and graduated. Barely. I wasn't too great in school. But yeah, and then I joined the military in 2010, in April 2010, and I've been in for a little over 4 years. I currently still serve, and yeah, I was stationed in North Dakota for 4 years. And now I'm stationed in California. So it's kind of my history a little bit. So yeah.
Okay, great. And I had mentioned before that Shawn writes speeches. So what is it that inspired you to begin writing these speeches, Shawn? Do you feel that it was mostly events that you had noticed in the news, or do you have a personal hero that's a public speaker? Was it maybe a combination of both?
Yeah, I would say a little bit of both. I don't know, I've always been interested in politics, even when I was in high school. I guess I had like a kind of a rebellious attitude, so I would always ask questions or wonder why. I guess, when certain things happen, a lot of things that you do in politics, people like to always treat the symptoms of bad decisions. And I'm the kind of person that likes to fix a mistake. So you would never have the symptoms. So that kind of always sparks curiosity in me. So I always ask questions, and yeah, so I started getting more involved in politics, and you see, current events happen. And yeah, I was like, well, maybe I should start writing speeches and kind of get my opinion out there. And another point I was actually about my wife, and a couple other people were like, maybe you should write speeches and keep all your speeches like in a folder. So if you, I'm like already starting to develop my politics and develop my views. They're very raw, and we've seen with a lot of politicians, when they first start out, they always have good intentions, and they always start out and have really, really good judgment, but as they get bigger, get bigger offices or things like that, they kind of change your views, they kind of flip-flop, and I've never been a person. I love consistency, and I love people face their politics off in school, and they always stay consistent no matter, who judges them or who criticizes them, so maybe just write speeches about different topics and your viewpoints on them, and put them away. So whenever you get to a bigger office or you hold an office, and you're faced with a hard decision, you can always look into that folder and find out what you thought about it then when you first got involved, compared to the way you feel about it at that point. So yeah, it's just been a blessing and a really good idea to keep things when you first started, it kind of, I guess, grounds you, reminds you of why you started getting involved in politics in the first place.
Right. So you like to make sure that you're always looking back and always staying true to exactly what you've said before, rather than being a little bit flip-floppy like some other politicians.
Yeah, there's quite a few out
there. Absolutely. One thing that Shawn touches on a lot in his speeches, something that you seem to be very passionate about, if I'm not mistaken, is the 16th Amendment. Would you care to explain to us exactly what the 16th Amendment is?
The 16th Amendment is the income tax, and I'm sure everybody knows what income tax is because they all take come out of their check. If anybody loves, you know, to work and spend their own money, then they're probably not very happy with the 16th Amendment. So, yeah, it's income tax. That was passed the same time the Federal Reserve was established. And more or less, the government taking money is a way for them to redistribute wealth. So they take your money and they give it away. So, but also, it also kind of allows the government to have a higher priority to your life and labor than what you do. You know, before you get to spend the money, they have already taken out their piece. So I think the income tax is very destructive, and I don't think the government has any rights. There's never anything written in the Constitution that gave them the ability to place a direct tax on the individual. Completely illegal. Before the Federal Reserve was established, for income tax, they had everything working off tariffs, extra tariffs. You know, everybody had to pay tariffs whenever they imported, exported anything. So the taxes never relied on the person per se, like directly, but that also allowed the government. They had to work inside of a budget. You know, they could only have so much money, and it was always dependent on how much they import and export. But what the government assumes they can take this money from everyone all the time, it kind of creates the illusion that they can spend whatever they want, especially when they have a printing press that can print out, you know, as much money as they need. So yeah, I'm completely against the 16th Amendment. It's unnecessary. A lot of people think, you know, hey, you know, the government has to have an income tax. You know, they have to have an income tax for exist. Yeah, they're right, partially. Yeah, you know, you have to have an income tax if you want a government the way we have it right now. But if you want a government that's confined and has to work within a scope, work within a balanced budget, and they wouldn't be able to afford these surveillance programs, and wouldn't be able to afford these wars, and wouldn't be able to afford all these domestic and foreign programs, welfare programs, then you wouldn't need income tax. You wouldn't need the dollar. You wouldn't need the Federal Reserve. And that's my opinion about it. People actually look underneath the surface of it, and they'll be fine. You know, and it's kind of crazy what they can do with the amount of money that they take in. They also, when they take in the money, they also can judge on how much inflation to put into the market. So that's another way that they can kind of manipulate money by learning, like seeing how much money they can take in, and that's how they can judge how much money they can inflate or print, maybe for, you know, programs, you know, like the NSA and welfare programs, foreign and domestic. You know, when even the wars, even the police state, things like that. So yeah, the 16th Amendment is completely illegal. There's no reason for it.
And do you feel that the removal of that tax, the removal of the income tax, do you feel that something like that is even possible while the while the Federal Reserve still exists?
Um, well, if you eliminate the income tax, you eliminate the Federal Reserve. I mean, they both work hand in hand. I think if you eliminate the income tax, you would see a lot more productivity because taxes are always taken from productive people. They're never taken from unproductive people. Um, so yeah, I mean that's constant. It's almost like in order for the economy to be stimulated, a true stimulation, not these bailouts where the government's going to take money from one city and give it to the other. Like sort of like what they did in Detroit. You know, whenever you allow the government with that much money, they always balance that. They always give it to their friends in these companies, and never to I guess the white businesses. So what I mean by that is if there was by the way, so if there was say if they eliminated the income tax, right, to bail out the city. I think Rand Paul he proposed a bill. It's called Economic Freedom Zones, and he wanted to do it for Detroit. So what he wanted to do was to eliminate the taxes there because their unemployment rate was so low. So what that would do is that would leave more money in that economy, in that city, so they could bail themselves out. And what I mean by that is like that people could choose, the consumer can choose on what businesses they want to go to. So then you're letting the consumer pick the winners and losers of the market instead of the government. Because what the government does, they always know that all the time. It's you know, think about it. they built GM and all these businesses out, and look at it now. They still flop. Detroit's still on its head right now, just because of the malinvestment. The government cannot interpret what the market would do naturally. If you're a consumer, you know what's the best product, or what you think is the best product. So you take your money there, you vote for it with your money. Some people like iPhone, some people like Joy. So you take your money there, and in return, whenever you take your money there, it allows the other competition to compete and have to make a better product. So I think it's in order for the consumer to win, that you have to allow competition and you have to allow them to have more money so they can invest in these companies. But the government has no track record of having good investments at all. They can't manage anything. Can't even manage getting water out at the Superdome after Hurricane Katrina. So I would definitely trust them with the amount of money to invest in the market. So I think eliminating the 16th Amendment would spark a lot of productivity. People would love to have their money, to spend their money.
Right.
If I had more money to spend at the end of the month, maybe I was lucky, or maybe save up to buy a car. These things are things that would stimulate the market naturally, not manufactured stimulus where they give money and then it's all spent in all these malinvestments. It may be good for a little bit, it's manufacturing may be good for a year or so, but eventually it'll flop because it's still all malinvested, opposed to letting the consumer pick what's the best thing in the market. So yeah, I think eliminating 16th Amendment would do a lot of good.
So if I'm not mistaken, you're saying that, in your opinion, it is more advantageous to us as a society to actually take that 25% of our check that is getting pulled out every single paycheck and spend it back into the economy rather than paying off debts that we owe to a private organization with it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I never signed up for that debt, you know what I mean? So, I don't think I'm justified, I don't think they are justified for having me pay back this bank. That I have no control over. The crazy thing is, even Congress they have no control. They created it. They created it in 1913, but they have no oversight over it. They have no control,
right,
of how much money is printed out of it. It's so crazy. I don't know who in the world would think of doing something like that, but their cheese definitely split off their crackers that day. But it's crazy. It's crazy. You're gonna create this bank, and they get to have the power to print money, and we have everybody under the delusion that money is actually wealth. At the time, we had a gold standard, so I guess it was considered wealth because gold gets its value from the market, and the dollar gets its value from the government. But when we had a gold standard, the dollar was gold. Essentially, it was a receipt of gold. So people had this illusion, it's worth something because it's backed by gold. But to give a private organization the ability to manipulate and print money, or to give out easy credit with no oversight, that's crazy. That's crazy. I don't know how people think that this is going to last forever. It's impossible. Do people even study the origins of the Fed and why it was created? It was created so banks around the United States could be more flexible. They can give out easy credit, and then when people fail to pay their loans, because with easy credit, they have low interest rates, which could people in the Fed, they determine interest rates and keep them super low. So they give out this easy credit to people that couldn't pay it. Normally couldn't pay it. Think of the housing bubble. They were giving out easy credit for people to get homes because the government thought it was good to get in the housing market. Everybody should have homes. I agree. Everybody should have homes. We should have homes you can afford, and the market should determine interest rates. And the market should determine what credit it's giving out, but that's by the bank independently. So what the Fed does is it allows easy credit, and whenever banks lend out this credit to individuals for a car or a home, whatever it is, and they manufacture these interest rates, and these interest rates have to go up, and these bubbles burst. Then the Fed will print out all this money to buy all that bad assets back because people can't pay their homes, can't pay their cars, and the interest rates are too high. So the Federal Reserve, they print out all this money and buy all that back. They call it quantitative easing. But on the downside of that is that all the inflation on the market will make everything go up. Everything on the market goes up, from gas to food, the whole cost of living, everything goes up. You pay for that. which is it's crazy, but it would never happen in the first place if the Fed wasn't there. So if it was just an independent bank loaning out the money, they would assess those risks. They would make, I guess, more educated decisions on who they loan money to, who they give credit to, because they would see the cost that that person would default on their loan. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right, absolutely. So you definitely feel like the income tax itself is hurting us. It's hurting us
Oh,
as a
absolutely. It's
society.
murder.
What about the Federal Reserve? A lot of times we hear that the reason that money creation is being allocated to the Federal Reserve is because that is the best way to go about it. Do you feel that it's still advantageous to our government to get their money from the Federal Reserve? What are the benefits for the government of borrowing money like this?
What is it? You know, like it's crazy. It's they can do anything. They can do anything you want. More or less, as long as they have all these other like you know these countries they have our dollar as a reserve currency because it was once gold. You know, backed by gold. So they have this reserve currency, and they also have a lot of confidence in America, in the United States, which is slowly at a decline now. People are starting to see that our economy isn't going back up. We're not being productive. And a lot of the scandals and wars and stuff that hurts. That hurts our currency. That hurts the confidence they have in the United States. So, yeah, you know, having that kind of cartel for the government, you know, I guess they like that. You know, people always think that they have the most powerful man. Guess in the country would be the president, but actually the most powerful man or woman would be the chair of the Fed. Believe it or not, right now it's Janet Yellen, but before that was Bernanke. That's to me that's the most powerful person they can determine on what the economy is like or what it's not. What it's not going to be like. It's going to be very very inflated or have no inflation at all. But yeah, I think that's the government loves having someone who can print money. So whenever they need money for a program or for a war or for some kind of adventurous journey they wanted to oversee. Like we're in Africa right now because that 200 girls got kidnapped or whatever. Which I don't know. There's we can go on and on. There'd be a whole other discussion about that. But it's the fact that we can go anywhere in the United States and when it comes to funding, the Fed can print it out and then other countries recognize it as well. And which is disheartening because it doesn't have anything back yet. The only reason it's worth anything is because our government says it is. The market doesn't give it necessarily give it value like it gives gold or silver or Bitcoin or copper or precious metals, diamonds, platinum. The list can go on. It's whatever the market seems valuable, and for something like gold or silver, which I advocate for, use for that gets market is they get value from the market, and you can't manipulate gold and silver. You can't just create it. You get to find it, take it up and mint it. But yeah, you can't manipulate this. You can't overinflate this. You know what I mean? So I think that's one of the reasons why they went away from gold and silver is so they could print ridiculous amount of money in that. And the cost of that falls on people. So they never take the hit for it. The people in America, they take the hit for it, for all this money being printed. So yeah, that's a reason why a lot of the people in Washington, they don't want to audit the Fed or in the Fed and stuff because they're buddies, they're friends. They don't know how they were surviving without having a cartel to print out money, which is, that's the reason a lot of support the surveillance state or support the police state or even the wars that go on. A lot of them support it, so they don't want to get in Fed because they know without the Fed they wouldn't be able to afford that, or all those things at the same time. So how big the government is now as a result on having the Fed. The Fed was just created to satisfy an appetite for big government. So without that being there, they never going to afford all these things, not at all.
So, do you feel that the problems that are actually caused by the Fed are they fixable within the realm of capitalism that we currently live in, or must a change be made in the governmental system as well?
Yeah. I think capitalism is the only way. some people can disagree with that, but we've never had a real true chance at capitalism. It's crony capitalism. What's going on now is it's corporatism. It's not capitalism. When people who suggest, there's a lot of people that suggest being socialist, and things like that. When you talk about things like that, you are promoting the government to manage something, opposed to true capitalism, which is being free markets. True capitalism means the government is not involved at all in the market. So what that means, if the government wasn't involved in the market, that means the government is not involved with money, because money is supposed to get its value from the market. So whenever when people talk about capitalism is the only way, being that it's a free market, and the government is absent, it's completely absent from the market. So the people determine what's valuable, what's not valuable, what's good to invest in and what's not good to invest in, not the government, because the government always malinvests and it always misleads people just to benefit themselves. So I don't think that having any other types of economies will work. Everybody knows that socialism, those things don't work. Look at the Soviet Union when they collapsed. It's very similar to what we're doing now with the printing of money and the expansion of the state. So very, very similar. In the Soviet Union, they didn't get beat out. Those in the Middle East too, and they didn't get beat. They fell financially. They were bankrupt. They had too much money and they were expanding too much, and they fell flat on their face. It's very similar to what we can do now. The only benefit that we have is that the other countries see our money as being valuable, and we have it as a reserve currency for the world. But things are slowly starting to change. There's a lot of banks that are going to start denying the dollar because there's too much of it out there in the market, and it's being inflated. So eventually things will change, and we'll be forced to make some changes. And there'll be some hard ones too, but and it's bound to happen. It's inevitable. But a crazy thing I see is really common. I see a lot of people, they love to mistake capitalism for corporatism. What people have to understand is whenever the government gets involved in the market to make friends, in big corporations, think about like Albert. Albert is in the Middle East right now ever since 9/11. Albert has been in the Middle East. And crazy enough, Dick Cheney was the president of Albert before he was the vice president for George Bush. So that, to me, that's corporatism. Whenever you have government and big business together to create laws and do things on the market, to make people pay for things on the market, that's corporatism. That's not capitalism. Capitalism is completely absent from the market. It has no involvement, which is the only way. That's the only way that the consumer can get the best for the buck. I mean, but they have to use a currency that the market deems valuable, not the government. So that means things like the dollar wouldn't hold any value because the government is what places value on that. But every other country, they all have fiat currency, have currency. But that's when the government's completely absent from the market. I think you would have a better investment. You would have a better quality of products because the consumers are picking the winners and losers, not the government. Does that make any sense?
Right. Absolutely. I see what you're saying there.
So we just never had, I don't think we've ever had a true stride at capitalism. It's always been crony capitalism. It's always been there's always been the government with their hands in the cookie jar. Always. So people can't say that we've had a run with capitalism. That's not a fair, not fair judgment. I mean, the government's always been involved with the market. If they would leave the market completely alone, then I think we would see a lot of positive things come from it.
Okay. And do you feel like right now we are in the brink of an awakening in the terms of how people actually see our government?
Yeah, I have glimpses of hope, if you will. But I have glimpses of hope where people seem like like they're waking up. I'll see like the riots, people protesting. I don't, I'm not in favor of being violent or anything like that, but I do see people that do riot or do protest. They ask questions, and that kind of makes me feel good in the sense that they're asking questions. They want something to change, and they're so desperate for the truth or for something positive to happen. But at the same time, I can go out and society and see people that will maybe talk politics with, people, at workplace or anything like that. And sometimes people are so far gone, and anything you say, if it's the truth, anything you say, they look at you like you're an outcast, or you don't know what you're talking about. So I guess I get close to the both, but I do think there's a large talent majority out there. I think there's a lot of people that have the right judgment and the right look on things, but they don't know how to say it, or don't know how to express it, or whatever it may be. I think there's a big silent majority out there, and all they need is a few good people to have the similar views to them, and stick on the work to get out there. And I think that's where the people they would end up backing. But I think there's a big silent majority out there, and if you're one of them, people listen to shows and voice your opinion, speak your mind, and make sure you're heard. You can definitely do a lot of good. It can turn a lot of people around, or encourage people to speak their mind as well. But we're all part of this. People, if you don't speak your mind and you don't try to change it, eventually it's going to affect you directly. And it's no longer going to be at your neighbor's house or down the street. It's eventually going to be at your doorstep. It's going to affect you. So I was asking for people to get involved and try to do something, even if it's something as simple as writing speeches on it and putting them on YouTube like I did. It's always still a way to express yourself and to get people to ask questions. So absolutely.
So would you feel like the internet is, do you feel like the internet is a pretty important tool in this awakening? Do you feel like it's a pretty important way that we can all get our message out there and be heard?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like the internet. I mean, I guess it can be used for good and bad. There's a lot of bad things on the internet too. A lot of misleading things on the internet. But hey, that's a part of having, I guess, a free like marketplace, I guess, if you will. Having the government, no, they're not regulating it. The government, they're trying to regulate it now, which would be unfortunate. And then you wouldn't have so much controversy over the web. But yeah, there's a lot of good that comes from the internet. Even like, sure, like I've taken a little bit of college, I guess through the military, but even when it comes to schooling, I've learned more from the internet than what I have in any type of school setting. It's pretty great. I mean, I guess whenever you're interested in something, you can look it up. You can find somebody, like, if you want to look up D-Day, we just passed D-Day. If you want to look up something about D-Day, I'm sure there's one person out there that knows D-Day, and knows every detail. Probably doesn't even have a degree. He's just interested in that particular subject, a particular day, and you can learn a lot from that. So I think the internet, does a lot of good. It does a lot of truth to the internet. There's also a lot of things that are not so true, and a lot of things that are misleading. But hey, that's what you get. That's the chance you take. Always, cite your sources, or double check what you've read. Look at it to another site. Kind of, I guess, make sure it's the truth. But yeah, I mean, I think the internet there's a lot of good. It does a lot of bad too. But I think it needs to never be regulated at all from the government. And yeah, I think it's great.
That's great. And Shawn, it looks like we're pretty much done with all our questions that we have for you today, but is there anything else, is there any message that you'd like to leave our audience with today?
Okay. Somebody told me this quote, and I can't remember where it came from, but I'll leave you with this. Don't base your involvement in politics on the chances of success, and that success is truly possible. So that's a quote that's kind of given to me, and a lot of people don't want to get involved in politics because they don't think it'll make a difference or a change, and I think that's the wrong attitude to have. I think getting involved because you want to, I guess, be on the right side of history. I want to get involved in politics, not because I think it would make a change right away, just because I know it was the right thing to do, is to say something. I think when more people get involved because it's the right thing to do, I think that's when you'll actually see the big change in things. I don't think you should always look at it the chances of success. You should just get involved because it's the right thing to do. So if I could leave y'all with anything, that's probably what it is.
Shawn, thanks for being on the show today. I'm gonna
No
have a
problem.
link to. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have a link to Sean's YouTube channel on our Facebook page here. That way, you guys can go check out all of his speeches. I strongly encourage that you do so. And Sean, you have a great day. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.